I really appreciate you taking the time, Eli. I know it's release day, which is an exciting day for
Yeah.
any movie release. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat, and I'm really excited to get into it. And one thing that I'm sort of curious to really find out is not only is this the second time that you're playing Freddy because you've done the TV show version as well, but this is an element of Freddy's story where he really this is his coming of age. He grows up in a very physical form. So I'm curious to know for you as an actor, how do you then sort of adapt changing the voice of Freddy to sort of show that transformation through your voice, but also keep that familiarity so that the audiences who've grown with him are familiar with.
Yeah. Oh, I'd like to say that I had a big fancy method and process for changing the voice and, letting it grow for the teenage sort of wolf form, but
Mm.
I didn't really because I think, yeah, it's the same as when he's human or when he's animal. It's like, for me, it's the same voice. He's the same person, I guess. It's, the spirit is the same. And he always wanted to be a wolf. So I think, it's not like going through puberty by any means. So, but yeah, I think the spirit of him is the same. So I try to just sort of stick to that mentality.
That's interesting, and I guess because the character it has evolved over the film and the TV shows and coming return to it, I'm curious to know whether there was an aspect that or a thing about Freddy that you sort of learned or wanted to hone in more after the fact of doing the first film that you kind of got to flesh out a little bit more in the sequel here.
Yeah, I guess maybe because the message is the overarching message is the same for me of like, really accepting your self-worth and loving your authentic skin, for both films really that I feel like I think it's like a lesson he almost had to learn twice. So that's the kind of yeah, background work that goes into it of like what he can strip back more, and find that he loves about himself. It's like, yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. The message that he just sort of had to, it's the lesson that he had to learn twice.
That's interesting. Has there ever been a point in your career where that sort of helped inform the discovery of that about Freddie, having to learn that lesson twice when it comes to your acting?
Yeah, 100%. Pun intended. Yeah, like I don't think that really goes away, that feeling of, not feeling like you're enough for all kids and all adults. So that's why, yeah, the take home and takeaway message of 100% wolf and 200% wolf is so important because
Mm.
it's a value that needs to be instilled in children from your parents and from yourself within growing up. So, you always have your self-doubts when you're in this business or when you're in just your everyday life. So I feel like
Mm.
we're all the hero in our own, hero's journey every day. And so everyone has a different version of affirming their self-worth and their self-importance. So I feel like when you see films like this or coming of age stories like this, you can relate to it no matter what age you are because
Mm.
it's a lesson that everyone always learns in life,
Mm.
whether you're, happy in what you're doing and where you are, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the relatability of it is such an important aspect of these films and Freddy's story as well. And I think what makes it incredibly, I guess, for lack of a better word, accessible or palatable is animation. I think that there's something about
Mhm.
exploring these worlds that are larger than life that to make those sorts of themes and messages more palatable. Has there been an animated film or even just a coming of age film that was important to you that sort of taught you lessons that in the same way that 200% Wolf is going to do the same for younger audiences now?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, there's all the massive Disney
Mm.
classics, Lion King, Aladdin, Sword in the Stone.
Mm.
Um, Even Alice in Wonderland was a huge favorite of my sister's as well. But my
Mm.
favorite movie of all time has this overarching message in it, and that's Mrs. Doubtfire.
I
It's
love that movie.
it has all the beautiful storytelling elements, and it's a great family film. And it has the same message of like, everybody's different, or all families are different, but we are, we're all the same as long as we love ourselves and treat others with respect.
I love that. I love it. I'm curious to sort of get into the nitty gritty and break down sort of the technicalities of voiceover work, because obviously we use, especially in acting, you know this, you use so much of your body to convey emotion, but you're in the booth and you're trying to convey that emotion through your voice. What is the physicality of a voice performance or voice work look like when you're doing a movie like this where Freddy is such a high energy character?
I mean, it's very physical. Like, I reckon animation voiceover is the closest thing to acting because
Wow.
of all the, emotions and levels that you have to go through from 1 to 100, and all the exertion sounds, the Waller sounds, like they call it,
Mm.
from just performing the action sequences or whatever. It's real emotions. If you ever watch even footage of me or footage of other actors like Tom Hanks in Toy Story, or um, Chris Pratt and Garfield, like, people go through everything that they do on screen. They're just not done up. They're not looking like they're ready for on camera, because all the emotions and everything that you have to convey is still very high stakes,
Yeah, yeah.
like the lessons that we're talking about are all serious, and everything is very important for these characters. So especially when you're the hero or the lead, if you're in every scene, you're going through a whole spectrum of emotions. You've got an objective and you've got somewhere that you want to be, and whether you reach that or not affects your performance and how you feel about it. So yeah, it's incredibly emotional, and that's why I love it as well, because it requires your whole self.
That's amazing. And I think that sort of interestingly goes with that point you're saying before about having, and the message of the story being about being authentic to your true self, even though you have those doubts. So I'm curious to know, was there a moment when you were recording the voice for this film when you thought there was a scene where you're like, I don't know if I got it, but then the magic of animation and this beautiful world brought to life where you went, oh my God, I can't believe that's how well that turned out.
Yeah, I think because you offer up so many takes in the booth on the day, and there's quite a like array of options for the recordings, because we know we don't just do it all in one day. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's nice to see what ends up in the film, and it's nice to see like what I guess how my favorite experience so far with the film was watching my friends watch it at the Sydney Film Festival, because
Yes.
some of them actually got kind of emotional, and these people are adults,
Wow.
and
That's
I think
incredible.
you can't help but be affected by the detail and of the animation too, because it's world class. Like, that's why we love characters with big eyes and small bodies. It's like a baby, Mupu's like
Mm.
a little toddler, and it pulls on your heartstrings. So it's nice to see what Alex, the director, went with all of those sort of heartfelt emotional scenes between those two as well, with the whole brotherly love aspect as well.
I'm so glad you brought up Alexis as well, because he obviously is someone who has such an incredible career as well, with the films that he's worked on. How
Yeah.
valuable, amazing, how valuable was his input into things that informed your decisions that you made about Freddie, and just working on a film like this with someone who is just as esteemed as Alexis is for the second time as well?
Yeah, for the second time. I mean, it's great. He's a perfectionist, and he likes to do many takes, which isn't a bad thing, because I feel like he's got the whole story in his mind, like much directors need to. So
Mm.
you're kind of uh, trusting him and just letting it all go. You just offer up a bunch of options, which you can do as well in animation, because we're not waiting around for like a gaffer or a
Yeah.
grip to finish something off. Like,
Yeah.
you can just go and just run a million miles an hour and offer up so many things. And I can rolling reset myself. And it sounds bad, but I feel like the good thing about animation is that when you know the character so well, or when you know what it is that you have to hit, there is sort of a right way to hit a line, in my opinion.
Right.
And yeah, so when you hit that line, and you know that you've read it the way that it will come across the same way with audiences when they digest it, it's a win.
I do want to
Okay.
quickly sort of follow up. You're talking about when you sort of know then your character and how to sort of do a line from that. At what point did you sort of have that penny drop moment that you're like, I really do get who Freddy is. Do you remember that moment at all?
God, do I remember that moment? That's a really deep question. I'm not sure. I feel like I just loved him from the first audition way back in like 2018. The character description that Flying Bart gave was so
Mm,
niche and I think concise that it was fun to create what it could be. And yeah, because I do love animation so much and I love anything in that world, you can just, yeah, I think the free reign is awesome. So I had voices in my head that I felt like would be, great for him. And when I think, yeah, it was a nice thing to hear back from Alex saying that we went through a lot of tapes and yours was the one that stood out the most. I think, yeah, because of, all the chances that you can take in animation, I think sometimes people are afraid to just go balls to the wall. Like
sure.
I've seen it when we've done the series version of this. I've seen other actors come in for their first read when we did the first season and they read opposite me and just how like sort of maybe like real or timid, not real, but more laid back they were
Yeah.
because they were treating it more like they were acting on camera. And it's like, yeah, no, this is huge. Like
Yeah.
use all of your abilities and emotions in every single line. And that's the cool thing about animation is that you don't have to
Mm,
be precious about the way you're being directed because they have to animate it to fit into a certain sequence. At least when it comes later, like
yeah.
I didn't realize that was the thing that I learned doing the first film was that um, there's no pictures and there's no storyboarding or anything done yet when you do the first initial scratch record. So that's when you have the most freedom because
Right.
the animators then animate to your voice.
People can relate to
Yeah.
watching the film as well, especially with something like 200% Wolf, where we see so much of ourselves no matter what age. Like I saw parts of myself in Freddy too, and it's great that animation has that
Yeah,
sort of
man.
power. Eli, I really do appreciate you taking the time to chat. I know you're busy with a shooting schedule and it's opening day. It's absolutely chaotic. So thank you so much for taking the time, and I hope we get to do it again for another project soon. I really appreciate your time. Thanks, man.
Me too. Thanks for having me, Nick. No,
Uh,
it's been fun.